Grain might not be the most flashy effect, but it's absolutely vital for VFX and a hidden secret amongst the pros. Proper grain management allows for convincing composites of different footage and CG elements. It also brings a rich stylistic look to an editor's toolkit, capturing the essence of film. Sapphire now brings you UltraGrain, a new video filter designed to create fast, realistic film and camera grain. It features a library of presets for the most popular film stocks and digital cameras. Pick your grain type and adjust a couple of sliders to find the sweet spot for your footage. Or explore the deep set of parameters designed to give you full control and match exquisitely beautiful film grain. More customizable and realistic than grain overlays, better looking and faster than your standard grain plugins, UltraGrain is built for speed, with CUDA and Metal GPU acceleration, and full support for networked rendering across a distributed render farm. Grain management may not be glamorous, but Sapphire UltraGrain makes it fast, flexible, and totally natural. Head to borisfx.com now to learn about Sapphire and UltraGrain, or better yet, stay with me for a short while and let's take a look at UltraGrain in more depth and see why it will be your new favourite invisible effect. Okay, so we're going to be starting in Resolve, but remember that all of the things that we look at in Sapphire UltraGrain are going to be the same no matter which host you're working in, and we're also going to be taking a look at some other hosts later as well. We'll find UltraGrain in the Sapphire Stylized category, and let's just apply this to our clip. Now, looking at our parameters, the main controls that you want to use are rather straightforward. There's going to be grain amplitude, so that's the amount of grain that is being applied. Add this up really high for a second. We also have grain blur, so we can make the grain elements bigger. Or let's just turn those back to how they were default. We have grain size, which is a fast way of affecting both of those at the same time. Let's reset that again. Let's turn my amplitude up so we can see this a bit easier as well. The other thing you might want to look at straight away is whether you want color grain or mono grain, and that's just a single click here with grain mono. And we tweak that up how we want it, and we can just play that back. And in Resolve, I'm playing back in real time. It's a nice fast effect. Now, the real fun with UltraGrain is in its presets. So let's load a preset up and come into the preset browser. I'm going to set my viewer mode to 100% so we can actually see the grain in a bit better detail. Now we have a large number of presets available to us, and these are broken down in a number of different ways. If you want to look at a certain camera manufacturer, for example, we're in Resolve, so let's have a look at Blackmagic. We have presets for the Blackmagic Pocket Camera 4K, 6K, and the Ursa Mini Pro. And I click between the presets, we can see the difference between them. Let's reset the presets there. If you're looking for more of a film-like look, we have a lot of different film stocks available right here. And remember that all of these can be tuned to your heart's content. If you're looking for a more monochrome look, we type in mono, and there we have different monochrome grain for us. This even includes grain that's been styled after popular films. And no, you don't win a prize if you can guess which film has inspired these grains. I want a more filmic look, so I'm going to go with one of the film stocks. So I'll choose the 35mm 400T generic expired, and I hit OK on that. And we still have all of the abilities we had before. Maybe if you want to boost this up a little bit, we can take the grain amplitude up. And again, this 4K clip on my system is happily playing back in real time in Resolve. Let's take a look at our next timeline now. Now, one of the popular ways that people have been emulating grain has been with grain overlays. So taking a grain scan like this, and then using a blend mode to composite that over the clip. Zoom in here. Now, if you're just dealing with this on stylistic merits, maybe this is all right. A big disadvantage of using grain overlays, though, is we just get this uniform grain going over the top of everything. Only the brightest whites aren't affected because they're already white. Now this is 35mm 500T. So let's come into UltraGrain, come into the presets. I'm just going to type in 500T here, and we've got a couple of different varieties that we can work with. We'll take a 35mm 500T, load that in. It's given us a sort of similar look, though this UltraGrain preset by default is color, so we can turn this to mono if we want to. But I think the big advantage for using UltraGrain is in its flexibility. So we can easily change things like the grain amplitude, but we can also change up things like the grain size. So make it a finer grain or heavier, fatter grain. And that's obviously something we can't easily do with a scan without scaling and losing quality. The other thing that's different, and I'm going to zoom in even further here, is being able to control the tonal regions, because grain isn't uniform across the entire image, despite what using a grain overlay would have you believe. And this is where we can start to tune things a bit more. So we can tune how much of the grain affects the dark areas, whether we have heavy grain in the darks or bringing that back a little bit there. And also what happens in the brighter regions as well. Touch a little bit of grain into the not quite white regions, or if we take this even further too far, we can even do something that would never happen in real life and get grain in the overbrights. So that wouldn't happen. Let's take that down. So we can get a much nicer, more controlled, realistic look than we can with grain overlays. And there's the overlay. And there's the UltraGrain. Let's head quickly into After Effects now and see how UltraGrain can be used to make more convincing composites. So I had my keyed out element here, and if we just play this back, you'll see that there's quite a bit of noise in there. In fact, if I look at one of the color channels, that's probably going to be easier to see. Let's take the red channel there. And you can see, boom, boom, yeah, got quite a bit of noise in there. I'll play that back. Hopefully that comes through with the compression as well. Now, I take the background that we have for it, and play that back. This is completely clean because it's just a background still. So let's add in UltraGrain onto here. And if you take a look just at the defaults, you see we don't have a matched grain going on at all. The grain in the background is much heavier and sharper than the one in the foreground, which is why having this library of presets is so useful. Now I know that this was shot on a Blackmagic Pocket Camera 6K, so I'm going to use this as my starting point. Let's load this in, and we can see that these two are looking a lot more matched now, but it's not perfect. Different ISOs, different temperatures, different resolutions are all going to affect how the actual grain looks. So we will need to do a little bit of tweaking. And just to show how this works, what I'll do is I'll take the grain size up, and I'll take the grain amplitude down. And then if we look at the RGB here, and if I take that to 400% and we play that through, you can see we've got similar movement going on within the grain now. Very nice. And heading into Fusion now, we can see how we can deal with UltraGrain at several stages along the way as well. So we have our insert element, which has been degrained. So there's no grain in there, which also means that it doesn't quite fit perfectly with the original grain in the shot. So if we turn on UltraGrain now, we now have grain within our insert. And if you want fine control detail, you have that with UltraGrain as well. We have individual controls for channel amplitude and channel blur. Here, if I want to take the amplitude in the red channel down a little bit to match those two, and maybe I'll blur that up just a tiny wee bit more as well. Then I can come into my green channel. Let's look at this big. Yeah, come into the green channel and this looks fine to me. Come into the blue channel And this looks like a little bit too much blue we have in the amplitude, so I can take that down a little bit just in the blue so it all matches in perfectly. So when we come back into RGB, we should have the channels all matching in nicely, giving us a perfect composite. Let's take this back to 100%. The other thing to remember, of course, is not to think about UltraGrain just on its own. It is part of a larger workflow, of course. And if you're looking for film emulation, then it works perfectly in conjunction with Sapphire's color fuse. And you can find out more information about color fuse on the Boris Effects website. So now we've used UltraGrain to match grain between different elements. There's still nothing to stop us from using UltraGrain again across the entire image, finding a grain we like, and then using that just to tie everything together. And that's UltraGrain in a nutshell. A large library of preset grains to choose from, which you can then fully customize, fast to render, and extremely flexible with parameters that let you fine-tune the grain exactly how you want it. If you'd like to learn more about UltraGrain or Sapphire in general, head on over to the Boris Effects website, where you'll also be able to download a free trial of Sapphire for you to test it out for yourself. My name is Ben Brownlee for Boris Effects, and I'll see you again very soon. If you're interested in learning Sapphire, the Boris Effects website is a treasure trove for you, with hours of free training about individual effects, larger workflows, or interviews with professionals to see how they're using it on blockbuster projects. So check out the video section on boriseffects.com.